The research station on Valara 7 hummed with its usual afternoon quiet when Specialist Marcus Webb made his biggest mistake of the day. He kicked off his boots. The heavy-duty exploration boots sat by the airlock door, still caked with purple mud from the morning survey. Marcus had gone to grab a shower after 6 hours of trudging through the marshlands, cataloging plant samples. He figured the boots would be fine there for 20 minutes. He figured wrong. The Valaran cubs had been watching him all week. There were 4 of them, each no bigger than a house cat, with soft gray fur and enormous amber eyes. Their parents worked as cultural liaisons with the human research team, helping translate the complex social structures of their people. The cubs, naturally curious like all young creatures, had been fascinated by the strange bipedal aliens who had arrived on their world 3 months ago, but nothing fascinated them quite like the boots. Pip, the smallest cub, was the first to approach. She crept forward on her 6 legs, whiskers twitching as she sniffed the strange objects. The boots were enormous compared to her tiny body. Each one was nearly as tall as she was. The black, synthetic material was unlike anything in Valaran culture. Her people went barefoot, their padded feet naturally adapted to their world's terrain. She reached out one delicate paw and touched the boot. It didn't move. She pushed harder. Still nothing. Then she noticed the opening at the top, and her eyes went wide with possibility. By the time her siblings approached, Pip had already managed to wedge her front section into the boot. Her back legs kicked in the air as she wriggled deeper into the dark interior. "What are you doing?" chirped Zen, the boldest of the group. Pip's muffled voice echoed from inside the boot. "It's warm! And it smells like adventure!" This was all the invitation the others needed. Zen tackled the second boot, trying to climb inside the same way. But where Pip had been methodical, Zen was enthusiastic. He shoved his entire front half into the boot and immediately fell over sideways. The boot, with Zen wedged inside, toppled to the floor with a heavy thud. "Ow!" came his small voice from within. Kree and Misa, the remaining 2 cubs, looked at each other. They had a better idea. If the humans wore these things, they must be meant for walking. The humans always walked on 2 legs, even though they had other options. Perhaps these boots were the secret. Working together, the 2 cubs managed to tip one boot upright. Kree climbed onto Misa's back, then carefully lowered herself into the boot. Her 6 legs dangled inside the cavernous space, barely reaching halfway down. "Now walk," Kree commanded. Misa grabbed the boot's exterior and tried to move it forward. The boot shifted an inch, then stopped. It was much heavier than expected. She pulled harder, her little legs straining. The boot moved another inch, then another. By now, Pip had extracted herself from the first boot and had a new plan. She managed to get all 6 of her legs into the boot opening, then stood up. The boot rose about 2 inches off the ground before it tilted dangerously to one side. Pip's legs scrambled inside, trying to find purchase on the slippery insole. The boot lurched forward, twisted, then collapsed again. "I almost had it," Pip squeaked. Marcus emerged from the shower 15 minutes later to find his quarters in chaos. One boot had traveled nearly 3 feet from its original position, leaving a trail of disturbed floor panels. The other boot was on its side with a cub-sized lump wiggling inside. 2 cubs were attempting to operate a single boot like some kind of vehicle, complete with determined grunting sounds. The 4th cub was studying the boot's laces with intense concentration, clearly trying to understand their purpose. "What in the world?" Marcus said, though he couldn't help but smile. 4 small faces turned to look at him. 8 enormous eyes blinked innocently. "We are conducting research," Pip announced with as much dignity as a creature stuck in a boot could muster. "Human feet are very strange. We must understand them." Marcus sat down on the floor, now at eye level with the cubs. "Well, you're not wrong. Human feet are pretty weird. Want me to show you how the boots actually work?" The cubs chittered excitedly, extracting themselves from their various boot-related predicaments. Marcus picked up one boot and held it so they could see inside. See, humans only have 2 feet, not 6 like you, and our feet aren't as tough as yours. These boots protect us from sharp rocks, extreme temperatures, and dangerous terrain. Zen tilted his head. But why so big? Your feet are not this big. Good question. The extra space is for thick socks. And the heavy sole helps us walk on surfaces that would hurt otherwise, Marcus demonstrated by putting his bare foot next to the boot. The cubs gathered around, comparing the strange 5-toed appendage to their own padded feet. Your feet look very soft, Misa observed. Very breakable. They kind of are, Marcus admitted. Humans aren't really designed for rough terrain. We came from a world with gentler ground, so we had to invent protection. Kree's ears perked up. You invented foot coverings because your bodies were not good enough? That's one way to put it. Humans invent a lot of things to make up for what our bodies can't do naturally. We can't fly, so we built ships. We can't breathe underwater, so we made diving equipment. We can't survive in space, so we constructed stations and suits. The cubs were quiet for a moment, processing this information. But we can do some of those things naturally, Pip said softly. We can hold our breath for a very long time. Our fur protects us from cold and heat. Our feet can walk anywhere on our world. Exactly, Marcus said. Every species has different strengths. Your people are perfectly adapted to Valara 7. Humans aren't really perfectly adapted to anywhere, so we learn to adapt the environment to us instead. These boots are part of that. They let me explore your beautiful marshlands without getting hurt. Zen climbed onto the boot, standing tall on top of it. So humans are not strong, but they make themselves strong with things? That's a pretty good summary, yeah. The cubs exchanged glances, having a silent conversation in the way young creatures often do. Finally, Pip spoke up. Can we try again? With help this time? Marcus laughed. Sure, but let me put them on first, and you can ride along. He laced up both boots properly while the cubs watched every movement with intense focus. Then he carefully placed 2 cubs on each boot, letting them grip the tough material with their small claws. Hold on tight, he warned. Marcus stood up slowly, taking careful steps around his quarters. The cubs squeaked with delight, riding the boots like tiny ships on a gentle sea. From their new vantage point, they could see the whole room from a human's perspective. So high, Kree exclaimed. Everything looks different up here, Misa added. Marcus walked them around for several minutes, explaining how human boots were designed. How the treads on the bottom gripped different surfaces, how the material resisted water and temperature extremes. The cubs absorbed every detail, asking questions constantly. When he finally stopped and let them climb down, the cubs gathered together, chattering in their own language. Marcus's translator caught fragments of their conversation. Clever, weak, but smart. Making tools instead of growing them. Pip approached him last, looking up with her huge amber eyes. Thank you for teaching us, Marcus. We understand now. Humans are not strong like Valarans, but you make yourselves strong. You change the world to fit you. We try, Marcus said. Though I prefer to think of it as working with the world, not just changing it. That's why you study our plants, Zen said, understanding dawning. You want to understand, not just take. Exactly. The cub's parent arrived shortly after, apologizing profusely for their children's intrusion. But Marcus waved it off. They were just curious. No harm done. Actually, they were excellent research assistants. As the family left, Marcus noticed that each cub kept glancing back at the boots with newfound respect. They had started the afternoon thinking the boots were strange toys. They ended it understanding that humans survived not through natural advantages, but through relentless innovation and adaptation. The next day, Marcus found a small gift outside his quarters, 4 tiny woven foot coverings made from marsh grass in the traditional Valaran style. A note in careful human letters read, "For your feet, so they can be strong like your boots. From your research assistants." Marcus smiled and carefully placed them in his locker. He'd wear them around the station when he could. After all, adaptation went both ways. The cubs had learned about human ingenuity, but Marcus had learned something too. That curiosity, the desire to understand rather than judge, was perhaps the most universal trait of all. And that afternoon, spent watching tiny aliens try to walk in his boots, had taught him more about cultural exchange than any formal briefing ever could. Sometimes the best discoveries happened when you kicked off your boots and let the unexpected walk right in.